Boom. Oh, I don't like that angle. I like this one. GM fam. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Avatar. I'm your host, Crafter. And today I got the one, the only Nana in the house. What up, dude?
What up? What up? GM. What up, Crafter? Good to be
Dude.
here.
Hell yeah. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Grinding away. It's a nice day, midweek, but doing
Hump
solid.
day?
Thanks for asking.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Getting through this hump day. I'm coming up a high from the first episode this lovely Wednesday. I talked with the COO and co-founder of the Sandbox earlier today. And
Epic.
that was super awesome. But let's start this off by just having you kind of give people a little intro of who you are, and what you kind of been up to, just a elevator picture, what have you, and then we'll just kind of dive on into the conversation.
Yeah, that sounds good. Definitely a hard act to follow, considering you
Nah,
just
nah,
interviewed the COO of the
no,
Sandbox.
no
But
pressure. This is the more normal type of interviews that I do. So
all right, all
and
right.
honestly, I mean, it was fun vibing with him, but I enjoyed more so just like vibing with the homies and talking about whatever. So it's it's all good. No
Yeah,
pressure at
no,
all.
that sounds good. No, no, not at all. Just playing. But yeah, man, my name is Sean Nana. Homies call me Nana. Since back in the day, they call my father that as well. It kind of runs in the family. But I am a Board Ape Yacht Club member, from May of 2021. And it's been quite a journey, just kind of growing with the club and moving and navigating through the space. Really enthusiastic about building with IP, the future and the intersection of Web3 and gaming, and also the metaverse, and particularly the other side, which is something I'm really excited about. So, I'm also a co host of OTHERspace FM, and I do that along with my partner, Jason, also known as Baron Von Hustle. And we've been kind of really focused on building OthersSpace as a community, as a trusted source, and creating content, live content, video content, as well as experiences. And yeah, the community is thriving, growing. We're all excited about some of the things that's expanding and what we call, or many of us call, the Yugaverse and the expanded Yugaverse. But I think it really comes down to the core concepts and principles that I think I'm really enthusiastic about of just being in this space. The concept of ownership, interoperability, where your assets can be used in multiple ways and composed in different ways. And I think those are some of the principles that are like really exciting me, and meeting other people, projects, and yeah, games that are really embracing that is what I'm interested in. And so I'm really happy to be here, connect with people like you, Crafter, who I've been fortunate to have run into, like, almost, I feel like it's been almost a year at least, you know what I mean?
I feel like it has to have been. It's hard to know for sure. I
It
know
was
like
like early on because we've been doing Other Space FM for just over a year. Um, we
yeah, and
started the Twitter space uh, right it was right after the Other Side first trip, which happened in
okay.
July of last year. And I think we've had conversations about metaverse and things like
Hmm.
that, even
We were
possibly
chatting.
prior,
I
you
was gonna
know?
say I ran into you. I'm pretty sure this is where we met, was at a on an Alpha Vibes space.
Yeah,
Back I I have no idea when.
yeah,
But that was like how I had
definitely
like
more than a year ago.
gotten acquainted with you. And then then like I just like kept seeing you pop up here and there and on different spaces, and then other space started happening, and and then I really like started following along, because then I was like, oh, he like really is interested in what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And because yeah, like I've always been super passionate about the metaverse, and and I know that that was kind of what we vibed off of whenever we had chatted in like alpha vibes and stuff. And then whenever I saw you doing the other space stuff, I was like, hell yeah, like these are my people, and this is like this like era that we're in right now, or I don't know if era is a good name for it, but this phase of Web3 that we're in right now, like that's what it's all about, is like finding your groups of people that are interested in the same stuff that you're interested in, and just like
For
growing
sure.
to get together, because every day somebody's coming up with something new to talk about, or like experiment with, and like there's just, if you're not like surrounding yourself with other people that are doing cool stuff, I feel like you can easily just kind of, I don't know if fall behind is the right word, but maybe where, I don't know, but that, so yeah, I'm excited that we connected early on, and then you just kept popping up on my radar, and then OTHERspace happened, and I think OTHERspace is such a cool concept that you guys have created, you and Baron, and we should
Thanks.
we should talk a little bit more about that, just right now, maybe give people
Yeah, sure.
just your, and I mean, by the way, that intro that you gave was spot on. It like it was like a good, like almost like well rehearsed like pitch, if you will.
Oh, well, I
It
appreciate
summed
it,
up,
man.
you and your passion very well. So that's going to be a great soundbite, is what I'm saying, and
Nice.
we'll definitely turn it into one. But yeah, let's let the people know what Otherspace FM is, and I know you have your Discord, which is growing crazy fast, which is awesome to see. You love to see it. So yeah, let people know where they can find you, like the Discord, and then what it's all about, and then we can just keep on
Yeah.
talking. But
Well,
I think it's a great resource. I point people to it all the time,
I
whenever it's
appreciate that. I see that.
anything other side Yuga related, because
Yeah, man.
we can't all be experts in everything, but you guys are definitely starting to figure things out as far as the Yugaverse goes. So,
Well, dude,
and it's a group effort for sure.
it is. It really is. I mean, just speaking to what you were talking about, even just a little bit earlier, like surrounding yourself, right? There's such a big part of this, the concept of like the community, right? And I know that word gets tossed around so much in anytime we hear the term metaverse or web3, you often hear the concept of community, and it's been used to sell things too.
Yeah.
But really the core and essence of it is being able to know, like, not only is the data decentralized in so many different instances, but the people are decentralized. We're connecting with people all over the world. We're no longer kind of limited to the people that we can connect with in our local area to meet up at a certain spot. When it comes to a digital realm, it crosses
It's
and transcends different time zones, different boundaries, and even with technology, even language is becoming something we can hurl over, So the ability to connect with other people using the internet, using the tools, is something that we're enabled to do now more than ever before in history. So I think how OthersSpace FM really started is really that desire to talk about this stuff. Like the whole thing with the other side. They have like a few really solid principles that I myself believe in and am excited about. Having an open world, interoperability. I know that's a lot of things that are like thrown around, but we can go deep into it. Community driven, all of those things like are really important. And I couldn't find uh like there wasn't any Twitter spaces or places I can go to like talk about and express this stuff and learn on deeper levels when I'm fiending for more information. So really it was more so about like tapping into the community and who are the other people that we can talk about this with. And so in order to facilitate that, Baron von Hustle and I decided to create a Twitter space, and we thought doing it weekly could be sustainable. You know, amongst all the other things that we got going on in our lives, we thought, you know what, let's do this every single week. Let's open it up to the community. Let's get to know the other artists, creators, builders that are out there that are ambitious about building in the other side and learning about the other side. And that actually extended out to, you know, as we were doing that, you started to learn a lot of people who are interested in this have already been participating in other metaverse experiences, you know, whether they were building in Decentraland or Sandbox or other platforms like on Wax or whatever it might have been. There are so many things that, you know, we've seen metaverse plays before, but there wasn't anything that really tied everything that I truly cared about together, you know, really well. And even though Otherside isn't out yet, I think if we enroll ourselves into the co-creation of this, then we can help shape what this could actually be. And I feel like we have the potential to do that, especially with Yuga behind it and the backing that they received to put some energy behind it as well, you know, and the partnerships, you know, Animoca, Improbable. There's a lot of key things that are kind of lined up where the potential is there. And so with OTHERspace FM, not only have we been able to facilitate this discussion and organically grow a community of people that are excited to learn and talk about this stuff, but it's also facilitated collaboration between artists, between builders, between people who have ideas and people who can execute on them. And also not wait for Yuga or Otherside to happen. There are things that, you know what, if these are some of the principles and the tools that Otherside is built on, and it's going through, and if it can follow up with the principles of building for and by the community, having genuine ownership and interoperability, and just incentivized to collaborate and get the support from Yuga and the other side to like really help facilitate a new economy of creators and experiences, then I think, you know, there are some things that we can do right now that can translate into the other side when it launches. And so that's kind of where the Discord came about. Is like we're thinking if we plan on, you know, having an other deed, which is the land plots and other side, and we expect to build out, you know, our idea, you know, and a collaborative approach would have been like we got a tier 5 sky deed for OTHERspace FM. We want to build something called the OTHERspace station, which is going to be like the hub, the HQ. And we want to be able to host multitude of experiences, tournaments, games, discussions, etc. But what makes us think we can do something over there and get people to come if we can't do it right now? So that was really the mindset of like, well, we need to be able to expand the community and start doing these whatever experience we would imagine in the other side. Let's do those experiences with the tools that are available right now. And Discord's a big part of being able to cultivate that community, facilitate and organize those conversations. And we're currently doing that in support and figuring out in support of the community, trying to understand what is the meta right now for what we should be focused on when it comes to the other side. And it happens to be that a lot of the shared assets in the other side are starting to extend into these other projects. And that's what we're kind of noticing. Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal is a project by Yuga Labs, originally dedicated for a free claim to participate for all Bored Apes and Mutant Apes, and that was their NFT and pass to start participating in these sequence of mini games, where you use the same asset, but that asset really starts to get involved in all these other experiences. And so, yeah, man, I think it could very well start with things like that, but we're recognizing the community is understand like there's certain new behaviors. We're collaborating, we're coming together on certain things just so we can complete certain things in the game. But that's all going to actually translate to what's ahead when it comes to Otherside. So that's kind of where it's like, right now it's like building that muscle with the community, and it's also helping us realize, like, what does it take to actually help facilitate this along the way. And so we're trying our best with OTHERspace.
You for sure are. I think you guys are doing a great job so far. It's interesting that there's so many points. This is the hardest thing, like whenever, like from my perspective, like being a host of something like this, like whenever somebody's going on a good little segment right there, like
you don't want to interrupt.
I don't want to interrupt because you're on a roll and everything you're saying is so good, but like I just like I hear all these things and I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about this. So like,
yeah, we can break it down, dude.
Yeah, well, that's why I always have this notepad with me, so that like, and I half the time I forget to do it, but or to write things down to remind me. But one thing that is on the top of my mind right now is you're saying that how like you're bringing together this community inside of the Discord and building that community around like the commonness of the Otherside. And it just like, it reminds me so much of like, and I feel like this is probably going to keep happening, but as like, or maybe it won't, because Otherside is going to be the metaverse that rules them all. Who knows what who knows what'll happen? But I saw this happen with the sandbox too, where like that's what happened, and there's a core group of people there that love the sandbox, and they love the sandbox because of the same like things that you were explaining just a minute ago. And that's what gets me jazzed, is that like, and you touched on interoperability, that like whenever we do get to the point where things are interoperable, I think that's when like it's going to get real crazy, because then those people that are passionate over here about the sandbox and those people that are passionate about Otherside then begin to start commingling, and then it just like there'll be more different groups, and it'll be crazy to see how it all kind of plays out. But you're totally like,
they should work together, you know what I mean? Like, wherever the experience is at, I think the people should feel like they should be able to show up. You know what I mean? Like, if I guess this kind of comes into digital identity, but I think that's also something where IP comes into play. I have you can see my ape up here, and that's something I've embraced as my digital identity. And I would love to be able to show up in the Otherside, in Sandbox, wherever I go, into a video game, and have some sort of tie-in to where I can show up as my avatar. So that's like one little piece of it, but the whole concept is I own this, and then no matter where I go, it would be great if I would be able, if it, whatever experience it is or platform, if it can read that and acknowledge that, and so I could do that with Sandbox. That's
exactly.
what's cool. So
that you're exactly right. That is what's cool, and it's cool that it's already starting to happen, where there is that sense of interoperability. It's still like gonna be a little while until like we actually see like assets moving in and out. But like at least like with Bored Apes, for example, and all, there's quite a few. There's like 15 or 20, I don't know, maybe even more now, collections that started as NFT profile pictures and now have avatars inside of the sandbox. And I know damn well that if they have any sort of business savvy, they'll have avatars inside of the Otherside. So like it's cool to see that like interoperability already happening. And it's also like like touching on that IP thing, like looking back at it, I mean, there's lots of reasons why I wish I would have realized that I should have been buying apes whenever I thought about buying them at 0.34. But that's neither here nor there. But it's like, it's cool, like how that's like it's like a baked in, I wouldn't say it's a baked in audience, but it's a baked in identity that people recognize. And that's what's really cool about it. But there's two sides of it, where then then I see it from my side, where now I'm at a point where I've built this identity around, I mean, it's not myself, but it's a profile picture that basically looks like me. But like I created it out of, and it's all traits that are going to be avatars that we've been working on. And so like, there's also like that side where people like can kind of want to be able to create their own identity.
1000%.
But it all comes back to, so you want an identity and you want to be recognized in this digital space, because it's the same as being recognized in real life. Like
in real life,
because
if you show up to the office, you show up to a party, you show up anywhere, you kind of want to represent. You show up to a game, you kind of want to represent who you're rooting for. You know what I mean?
Right.
So all of those things kind of matter in real life. And, you know, I try and stay away from the term metaverse as much as I can, because, you know, it's the word's so played out. A lot of people have misconceptions of what it is. But when we're able to have like these digital kind of like experiences that can mimic something in reality that we've experienced, whether it's a conversation and, you know, translating it to a Twitter space, like, oh, that's like a town hall, you know what I mean? Or just being able to go explore with each other out in sandbox, you know, and go on a mission. Like those are all different metaversal experiences, but those are all things we can do in real life too, you know? And then so everything that matters in real life can technically be represented or show up as values in the digital experience as well. And yeah, I love the correlation, you know, of you observing that in sandbox and then kind of seeing the communities, the people who are excited about it, the principles of it, and how this is going to like with Otherside, it's another shot on goal too. You know what I mean? It's like, here's another player. You got Animoca Brands that's behind both sandbox,
both of them, exactly,
you know, and Otherside. So there's some exciting things. I think it's going to come down to the tools that are accessible. And like you said, with your identity, you sure as hell want to be able to have a way to show up like that in the Otherside. And I believe we all will. It's not just going to be apes, right? Like Yuga, who's producing the Otherside, they're also working on their IP collections to make sure those communities can show up in the Otherside as their IP. So Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, Meebits, Mutants, just to start with, should all be able to show up in the Otherside at some point, you know, as themselves without any friction. But with the tools, which they call the ODK or Otherside Development Kit, that they're working in conjunction with Improbable, which the other side is based on their M squared platform. They will have like the ability to import avatars, make sure that, and who knows like what type of AI and assistance, those tools will
It's
have.
getting crazy fast
It
too.
is. It is. But yeah, the ability to do it on an individual level or at a project level, I think are important things. And we should all have access to those tools, hopefully soon. But that's the intention. I know that's the intention. There's some, they've been transparent on like what they intend to put out in the light paper, as well as some blog articles around the where they're at with it. But apparently, 3D avatars for at least Bored Apes are coming this summer, and I had the ability to play as mine in a private demo that I was fortunate to be a part of in LA just a few weeks ago. And it's awesome. But having the tool available to be like, hey, I have a project, I have a community, I want to make sure my community would be able to show up. Or I, as an individual, I have this and this is how I'd like to show up. I should be able to do that too. And so yeah, I'm excited for those tools, and then also
Yes.
get to a place where Otherside can be open and persistent, which I don't think will happen at least to the end of this year.
Yeah, for sure. I can't imagine it would happen faster than that. But dude, the it's more and more like it's become more. It's been pretty clear to me from as soon as I heard about Otherside what it was going to be. And whenever the deeds dropped, they had somewhere on there, like I didn't even try and buy a deed because I knew exactly what was going to fucking happen, and I was like, I'm not paying a bunch of money for a gas war.
Yeah,
I'll get one on secondary, but but like during that time, that was like when their website first went live, and I was scrolling through it, and like there was a section where you could fill out and sign up to get the ODK SDK whenever they revealed it. And like I was thinking like, oh, it'll be in a couple of weeks or something. But I was like super excited about it because I was like, I knew exactly, because it makes total sense. And
I'm glad you signed up for it. That's definitely a first step.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's what the sandbox, when I first found the sandbox, like when I first found metaverses in quotation marks, Web3 games that allowed people to build inside of them, that's when like it really started to click, like how the metaverse was going to grow and expand was like it is going to be user generated content. And that's what like the sandbox was super focused on. Like that was their marketing, like is that they were the user generated content metaverse. And I mean, Decentraland was like that too, but for whatever reason, I ended up really enjoying the sandboxes stuff. And that's exactly what like the other side is going to be as well. And it's going to be cool to see. I hope that people that are watching this, I know a lot of you guys love the sandbox. I hope that that you're going to be able to do what we're doing in the sandbox over in the other side too. And like, that should be exciting for you. Like, it's not like only this or only that, like you can do it in both. And that's what I've always been super excited about. Like that's like interoperability. Like that's just always been what I've been bullish on, if you will. And like, so anytime I find projects that are doing stuff that have to do with interoperability, I'm always more excited about those. And that's like kind of how I'm building my whole ecosystem, the Crafterverse, as I'm calling it these days. And
Nice.
and like that's what I see is like we're gonna be in all these different worlds. Worlds, I think, would be probably the best way to look at it. I've talked about this on the show before, but like, and I think it goes, yeah. So like the metaverse is the galaxy. Nope, metaverse is the universe, and then there's galaxies, which are like the sandbox, or yep, or Otherside, or Decentraland, or CryptoVoxel, or whatever. And then the world worlds inside of those galaxies would be the things that the UGC creators are creating.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like, so that's how I always look at it, and that's what, like, I'm excited to be able to go explore all of these different galaxies and see what worlds are inside of those. Like, that just, it gets me like super excited, and I hope that we're not that far away, because like I'm getting impatient. Like I wanna be doing the fun stuff that I envision doing, and like the sandbox is getting there, definitely is. There needs to be a lot more people creating cool stuff in there, and I think that the thing that's like kind of holding that back is that the updates to what's capable in there hasn't been rolling out like super fast. So like the level of games that people can build is kind of handicapped right now. But it will get pretty dang cool. I know that the next update that's coming is already going to be a really huge step in the right direction as far as like multiplayer experiences go. But I also like, I know that there's going to be some really dope stuff that happens inside of the Otherside, and I can't wait to explore all of that. And like, I'm already so sick of this goddamn heavy metal game. I love I love where it's going, but it feels so long. Like, I don't know why we're why we're playing this game for
Yeah,
2 months
three weeks a
or
season
whatever it
is quite long for sure.
Yeah, like looking back, like first, whenever I heard that it was gonna roll out like that, I was like, okay, like I'm sure there'll be like different things that happen along the way or whatever. But doing the same thing over and over again, like I've from in like a gamer consumer's perspective, like I've lost interest. Like I don't log in nearly as much as I was in the beginning. Like I've just kind of like been like, okay, I'm just gonna have whatever I have, and we'll see what the next step is. But I am super excited for the next steps, and
Yeah, that's
like
the only thing that's keeping me going, like, it's
yeah,
just trusting that whatever we're doing here is going to pay off, like if I can get, extended time in the Rift when that opens in season
yeah.
4, it's like, okay, I realize my place right now, and that's just to build up my forge capacity and get
That's
enough
all I'm
energy.
doing. I just log in
But
anytime I think about it, and upgrade another tile. But like, other than that, it's like I don't have time for this. Like, but yeah,
yeah, what you're talking about with sandbox, just to kind of go back to it, is
yeah.
I was also really interested in sandbox early on as well. But it took a while for it to come alongside to the Mac. And
Mm,
that was what that's what I had. I still want to get like a PC build out, specifically for gaming. But
I think it'd
in
be
the meantime,
the right
like
move.
I got a beast of a Mac, and it wasn't as accessible. And that was one of the things that really intrigued me about the other side was the accessibility aspect. I know the technology is capable of doing client side stuff, but um, they're also doing everything like with pixel streaming with Improbables technology as well, which had the ability to host like 4,000 something people in a single instance in that world and during the first trip, and then almost like 7,000, I believe, or something like that in the second. Not
Yeah,
that you would
nuts.
be doing that every day,
Yeah,
but I can do that from the browser,
yeah, which is insane.
using Unreal Engine as the world builder. And that was, to me, what was like, okay, I've seen what Unreal Engine has done, and I've seen where Unreal Engine is going with Unreal Engine 5.
Hmm.
And the tools that are coming out for creators
Have you
are
seen
so
that builder?
exciting. Yeah. The city
Crazy. The
builder,
city
like where
builder.
you can build out like New York, and just the amount of tools that are being built around Unreal, I think is like that's what's going to take it to the next level. Now, optimizing that for pixel streaming and all that stuff, that's a whole nother thing. But if the other side builds their toolkit, having Unreal baked into that as well, just making sure everything's going to work in the same engine, that makes me really excited. I don't have to worry about voxels, which I'd love to, compose anything I build in there to be translatable so that it can show up in these different worlds. But that was a big key differentiator for me, and those are some of the things where it's like, okay, you understand kind of the tech that they're building upon. What are some things I can do right now to start getting involved with and getting my chops up, whether it be with Unreal Engine or, 3D software, Blender, things like that. So I think there's a lot of things like we can do as creators right now to just get our chops up so that when this development kit becomes accessible, we should be able to do that and then know that these experiences are going to be done through a browser. So that could make it very accessible to people. And I think the accessibility is going to be a very important thing. Now, like I said, I have Sandbox now on my Mac, but that wasn't always the case at first, right? So a lot of these things take time, and like I totally get that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was just one thing that, as I was playing with Sandbox and, should I dedicate more time into building out experiences there? Should I buy a plot of land, etc.? I thought this was a good opportunity for myself, considering the ecosystem and the community I'm already like really a part of, but also the technology really excites me, you know. So the fact that you're streaming it through a browser, you're playing it through the browser, it's running great, and it's capable of having experiences upwards of thousands of people at a time and using Unreal. So those to me were some like really good key ingredients that got me excited about, okay, like I can see a future where this can actually work.
1,000%. I feel like, I mean, you had a lot of good points there, and I feel like one thing that popped into my head is like that's honestly what I've been like, coming from like a creator's standpoint. Um, that's what I've been doing in the sandbox. Like that's like there's different ways to approach it, obviously. And my thought was I can build stuff in the sandbox right now, so I'm gonna figure out how to build stuff in the sandbox, and and then whenever the other side comes along, I'm also gonna build stuff over there.
Yeah.
And like the cool thing about that is that like I've been connected with so many dope people from the sandbox side of things, and like I'm working with Touche Studios, who is doing a lot of the building for me now, because although I can build stuff inside of the sandbox, I am not the best at it, and I know that, and I would rather but I want my stuff to be the best. So instead of instead of like spending a bunch of time trying to get better at it, I was like, I'm just gonna work with a studio that has badass people on their team. So like that's like it's
That's
what
a
has
good
been
point.
been a cool experience for me, and maybe something that you guys can even consider, is that finding help to build inside of the metaverse is going to be pretty easy to do. There's going to
I
be a lot
mean,
of people that want
to
to
your
want to do
point
it.
though, to your point around like you just jumping in and building it yourself, I think especially early on, those are really important things,
True.
is to get on the ground level, know what it takes to do this. And then when you start developing on the ideas that are much larger than yourself, you got to be able to either do it yourself or find someone that can do it better than you.
That's
Because
yeah, yeah, for sure.
if you can't Otherwise, if they're not going to do it as good as you can, then it's going to be difficult. You know what I mean? It's going to
Yeah.
be harder to just constantly build people up or have something go in production, spend money and time on something and have it not delivered to the quality or the concept that you want. But giving yourself experimentation to like collaborate with other people, that's one thing. But when it
Mhm.
comes to executing on like an idea and building a team around it, I think the the groundwork that you put in yourself to figure it out yourself, that time doesn't necessarily get wasted if you can turn that into the experience of you being able to speak to what you can expect and articulate your vision clearly and offer really good feedback when
Mhm.
communicating with other artists. But I I remember, you may know Tropical Virtual Tropical, I forget what. But he's a builder,
I think I've
also
heard.
in Sandbox. He's one who helped kind of lead out the BAYC Miami experience, Miami 2035 experience in Sandbox for Board Ape Yacht Club,
Okay.
Tropical Virtual. And
Yeah.
when I interviewed him, on OTHERspace FM, you know, he shared a best practice about like when working with other artists, find out what they like to do and allow them to run with it. You know what I mean? And that's also something that's really important, um, that I also believe in, is like when you do surround yourself with other artists or a studio, you kind of want them to also give them the reins to be creative,
Mhm.
and push something. So if you have like this very specific idea of what you want, you got to be able to articulate the vision of that, but at the same time, give enough freedom and space for artists and creators to come in and express themselves in a unique way as well. And I think that balance is really difficult. It's easier said than done, but in the spirit of Web3, in the spirit of working together, like there's some really beautiful things that can be enabling when people come together and you gather artists together and you let them do their thing. At the same time, it's all building toward this larger vision that could be very cohesive. So
Yeah.
having that balance of like that creative freedom, if you're not doing it yourself, you definitely should be looking at like finding people who are good at it, but also making sure that they have creative freedom in this as
Mhm.
well so that they can be putting and outputting their best work.
Yeah. Again, that's spot on, and I feel like thinking about it, like I think maybe even I would have, if you haven't brought this up, who knows what would have happened, but I wouldn't have even took very much time to play around with figuring out the other side, and just like been like, I know that I know people that I know could figure it out and do it, but I think I would then be missing that piece of knowledge where what I have with the sandbox is that I know what's capable, and I know how things can be done, and like so I have a lot of like creativity that goes on in my head as far as like what I want to accomplish, and then I can relay that effectively to the artists because they also know that. But like with the other side, it is a good point that it will be important for everyone, if you want to be doing good stuff like you're saying, to get in there and get your hands dirty and figure out how everything works, because just talking from experience, that has really enabled me to think outside the box and know how to do something that's not, it's not being done yet. Obviously, like you guys are kind of planning on doing a very similar thing in the other side, um, and I'll be doing that as well. And the other side is that, like, bringing a podcast or a talk show or whatever you want to call it, like into the metaverse, and how to like navigate that and actually make it enjoyable for the community. And that's why another reason
Yeah.
why I'm super glad that we're connected, because I feel like navigating it alongside each other is going to be beneficial, because it's like, oh, like you guys are doing this, I think that's super dope, I'm going to do something kind of like that. Or, oh, Crafter's doing treasure hunts in the sandbox, we should do treasure hunts in the other side, and like whatever. You get what I'm saying. But
No,
I
for
think
sure. Coming
I think
from a
that's
place of abundance and not scarcity, I think is
yeah.
something I noticed there's a lot of in the drama of Web3. Like people are so worried about, protecting their bags or whatever it might be. But I found that when you are coming from a place of abundance and you're supporting each other that are doing similar things or doing things that you could do, like when you support that, it actually just helps promote the growth of kind of the entire space and the movement. You know what I mean? And I think showcasing that level of support, it does come back around. I've witnessed it firsthand. And I couldn't be more grateful to be connected with all these other builders that are doing their own shows, their own Twitter spaces, their own Discords, building out their own tools. All of that are things like we all have the potential and can be enabled to do. So if we just acknowledge that within each other, yeah, there's some friendly competition and things like that. But at the end of the day, like this is building out the ecosystem. And
Yeah.
that's what's going to be the most important is if we have a healthy ecosystem, then there's like endless possibilities with that. But I feel like a lot of that is very like high level, not so nitty gritty, but you are speaking to the mindset that I think a lot of builders can really benefit from if they come from a place of like abundance.
Yeah, I mean, because it is. There's so much to go around right now. Like we're stupid early. Like like to even just like thinking of like from more of like a content creator side of this, no one's making content around metaverses like in the grand scheme of things. So it's there's so much abundance, and being, and also like to speak to like being surrounded with a community of other builders is so empowering, and it allows like collaborations to naturally transpire. Like I know you guys and other page have been doing some dope stuff, and like it's just cool to, because without um without like other page, am I saying that right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Other
I was like,
page, they're a great team.
yeah, like so without them seeing what you're doing and like connecting, or maybe vice versa, I don't know who connected the dots, but like without both of you, the dots don't get connected, and then what they're working on doesn't really go anywhere innovative, and what you're working on doesn't really go anywhere innovative. But whenever those collaborations starts to happen, that's when the really cool stuff starts to come about.
No, I
So
agree, man. I feel like that's really how the collaboration with the OPEXT
yeah,
Chrome
yeah.
extension for heavy
Shout
metal.
out
That's
shout out that tool.
yeah, it's been awesome, like and shout out Otherside Wiki who Frosty's founded that, another beloved community member specifically with Otherside, but extended to the larger Yugaverse ecosystem, built a dedicated page for all of this stuff. But when we're in the Discord and we're in the voice chat, we're playing Heavy Metal Forge with each other, and then we're talking about like some of these gaming assets and how, and for those that don't know, in heavy metal, all the game data is tied to the NFT. So everything you're building in your forge, the capacity of it, the layout of it, all that stuff is tied to the NFT. But when you're on a marketplace such as OpenSea, you don't see any of that game data. And this is only going to happen more and more as we play more games
Yeah.
that are tied to maybe a character. In this case, it's a mech that can be evolved over time. And so it's like, man, it would be great if we can see the game data right in line with OpenSea, so that when you send me a link or something like that, and it's one of the collections in OpenSea, I should be able to click on it and then immediately see like, oh, this heavy metal has, you know, an epic amp associated with it, or, you know, this one has no forge, so you're going to have to start from scratch, or this one has a forge but it was built inefficiently, so that actually will slow you down if you purchase this one and start playing. So all
Right.
those things were problems that we are coming across for the first time for many of us, because we're having to navigate OpenSea or Blur for going through the marketplace over here. But in order to cross-reference the game data, you got to go back to the game and check the number and do all the shit. So just to be able, like, going back to the community, coming up together, building with each other, it's like having a discussion in the voice chat, being able to be like, okay, who in the community knows how to create like Chrome extensions or is familiar with putting the game data together? And there was a few people that came to mind immediately. But one of the first persons that I reached out to was Miker
Shout out
and
Miker.
Taylor. Yeah, but Miker, he was like, he's the one of the co-founders for Other.page, and I love the vision they have there. But when it comes to like tools, like gaming tools and guild tools, it's something like we talked about in the past, and we're just like, you know what? Do you Would you be interested in collaborating on like an idea for a Chrome extension to get heavy metal data in line with OpenSea and show this, this, and this? And he was just like, let's run it, you know? And
Yeah.
it was really figuring it out first, because you know, he had the API from the game, and then it was a matter of just taking what's important from it and being able to put it into a really beautiful UI. And
Beautiful.
not even like a few, like I would say 24, 48 hours later, you know, already came back with like a MVP, you know, and we just kept working on it together collaboratively. And when it came to a go-to-market strategy, that's when, you know, we discussed, and I also believe this should be. He did the development of it, whereas I more so helped with like the what we wanted to get out of it and the experience, and more on the product design side of things. But it was a full collaborative effort. Like I couldn't say like, you know, it everything came from just one source. Like once the idea was out there, it was like everyone throwing in ideas to help make this better, including people in the community. So having the ability to just hop into the VC of Discord and be like, boo, what would you want to see? Da 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 da. Get feedback and immediate feedback from the community, and then turn around and come up with like a prototype and then sharing it with them, getting feedback, turning that around into a new iteration. It was like, yo, something really cool is happening here. We're exercising this muscle of building with each other, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I thought that was just very exciting. So I can only imagine when it comes to interoperability, etc., that these NFTs will have some sort of story, as well as there's intrinsic value within each one as it relates to a specific game or multiple games. So maybe there's certain game data that this will have for Heavy Metal Forge, but what about this same heavy metal in Legends of the Mara and that
Yeah.
game? So you start to really get the idea of like the future is going to be having like these assets, but it'll have multiple use cases, and what's going to be important to display when other people look at this asset and see how much time was put into this, did they do a good job? Is there actually a premium value for what's inside of this NFT? And I think that's kind of where it's exciting to see other projects start to incorporate multiple collections outside of their own.
Yep.
And you're starting to see that, like, oh, with my single NFT, I can participate in this, I can participate in this, I can participate in this, and just knowing that those particular NFTs have the ability to do that is something that it'll just become more and more prevalent.
1,000%. And Waypacks, shout out Waypacks, and shout out everyone in the chat. Thanks for tuning in and chatting. Yeah, NFT value will also be based on its metaverse history.
Awesome. Yeah,
which is so true. And these tools, like the one that you guys are developing, like that's what is going to allow for that value to be obvious to the everyday consumer. And it's such a valuable thing to have out there for everyone. Both, like, I even like thought of whenever this tool first dropped, for whatever reason, one of the things that popped into my head was, and I can't remember what NFT collection I experienced this with. I feel like it's been a few different ones, but there's definitely like been collections where if you have this NFT, you can claim this NFT, but it doesn't like change the NFT that you claimed it with. So there's no real like way like looking at it to know if it has already claimed it. So then you either have to like find their Discord, and maybe they have a bot that'll tell you if it was claimed, or so like
a checker on the website. You type in.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like hoops that you have to jump through, and this just solves even that basic thing, and then it gets way more elaborate, obviously, with all the gaming aspects that come into play.
Yeah, this is just the start, and I think if anything, it can kind of hopefully just create more awareness, right? Like this is not just for trading, based off of floor of price or anything like that. Like, there's data tied into this particular NFT. So if you want to see the value in this world, this extension could potentially help. And because it's a Chrome extension, it can actually extend to multiple collections in the future. So really, heavy metal is going to end after 6 seasons, and potentially each season the meta could change. So that also creates a challenge for us as builders to really pay attention to what the meta is for the game, decipher what data is going to be the best data to surface up and what's the most useful for the end user. And then how can you actually extend that out to future experiences in other games and other collections? And so where's the majority of people that play heavy metal? Where are they going to be after 6 seasons and this game is over? So you kind of have to really just pay attention to like, where is that energy and where is it going to transition to? And it could transition to multiple places. But I do believe the other side is going to be one of those ends, like destinations. And so that's kind of where it's like right now, heavy metal is actually great practice. It's like a beta for the community, for the creators and builders to start coming together, collaborate, figure out, build tools with each other, because once Otherside comes out, all of these muscles will be put into use like right off the bat, especially as we get more access to data and more access to tools. So, I think that's what's really exciting about like what's happening right now is like we're already starting to build these muscles as a community.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting to see that and be a part of it. That's one thing that I don't know what it is about I think it's probably because like I'm obviously like building and doing my own stuff, so like it's so hard for me, but like I find these groups like OTHERspace that like I want to be a part of, and I want to like be in there and
Yeah, you're a
participate.
big part of it already,
Yeah,
dude.
it's like
So
but like I think I finally found the balance where like, because before like I always felt like I needed to be in these discords or wherever, and like constantly like every day being in there, and it's like, okay, like you don't have to do that. Like you can just swing by every once in a while, say what up, and it takes people longer to maybe recognize your face or your PFP, but like eventually people start to catch on. They're like, oh, this guy has value to add or whatever. But like in the early days, like I think that's why I kept getting like burnt out and like going through like cycles of being burnt out and not burnt out, is because I
yeah,
was trying to be overactive. And I think that's, now that I'm talking it out loud, I think that's something that's important to point out, is that like, yes, there's a lot of very exciting stuff going on in this space, but you don't have to be plugged in 24/7 to keep up with it,
yeah,
especially if you find groups like OTHERspace that has the collective, that
right.
is keeping their fingers on the pulse, so that if you miss
Collectively.
if yeah, so if you miss something, somebody else is going to catch it and let you
Yeah,
know about it, kind of thing. And
yeah.
why that's what keeps me coming back to the OTHERspace Discord. I have
It's like we're like our own AI, but it's not run by
yeah,
AI.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like other people there. So
It's
it's
like
like we could just tap in and be like, "Yo, what's this?" And then you have the collective, experience from
yeah.
everyone be able to share resources and answers. It's like, "Yo, that's powerful." That's
Yeah,
powerful.
it is powerful, and that's fun. That's a funny analogy, but it is a lot like it. It's like popping up on into Chat GPT and asking a question, but instead of getting a Chat GPT answer, you get a couple people's perspectives of answers, and
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great. I don't know
Yeah,
where I was
and that
going.
that facilitates connections.
Yep.
But to your point around showing up every day, um, I see, and you probably do this too, but I'll just share my personal experience and what I recognize is there's a lot of people that can come into a space or a community and show up very frequently. But I think it what speaks even louder is really the consistency.
Hmm.
So if you show up every single day, but you only do that for 2 weeks, then that's one thing. But if you show up like once a week, but you do that for 2 years,
Word.
that consistency shows me and tells me a lot more, right? And I think in this space, especially behind the avatars, um, we're investing time and energy. And one of the things that we do as I participate in any sort of podcasts or a Twitter space and try and do my best to contribute and add value, one of the things that it could potentially do for that person is it can build trust over time. You get a sense of who this person is, whether, whether how effective or ineffective they were, you get a sense of authenticity, but that comes through that consistency over an amount of time. And so I think there's a lot of people that, just jump in, think they got to just go hard and grind it out. But, you can see, and I've seen people just get burnt out very easily. They can get excited about something right off of that energy and then disappear.
Hmm.
So to me, it speaks so much louder when you see people that are just consistently growing alongside you, and you get to kind of get a sense of that. If you're running as fast as you can in this direction, you may look left and right, and you start along the way. And a month down the line, you're seeing like a bunch of people there, but 2 years down the line, you're going to still see people there, but it's far fewer. You know what I mean? You start to recognize like, oh shit, yeah, crafters still talking about metaverse, facilitating conversation around this stuff, really ambitious about it. Notice that, notice your journey, even getting into the ApeCoin DAO, seeing how there's potential there in terms of, getting grants and doing things with the excited builders that are,
Seriously.
part of that community. So it's like those are some of the things that you really begin to recognize in the space. But yeah, I think, find that balance that works for you first, as I have. You probably hear my kids, like I'm really
Yeah.
trying my best to be the best builder and contributor in the community. And I'm also trying to be the best father and husband I can be. But once I'm not the best at one of those things, then that's where my time and focus starts to trend, so that's kind of how I'm really doing my best to balance that out. If I start slacking too many days in a row where I'm not feeding my son on time, then I gotta chill on all this other stuff that I'm excited about and just make sure to be the best father I can be. But if I, at the same time, if I feel good with that and I know I can contribute even further into the space and push myself, then I'm going to go and lean into that, And so it's constantly figuring that out on what works for you. But just like breathing, you got to go in, but then you got to take a little bit out, and it's like you got to step back. So it's the same thing with taking on projects. So that's the thing with OTHERspace FM too, man. I feel like we've just been going in. So finding a better routine, coming up with more like honed in programming, those are all things that we're working on so that we can have a better balance, and then building a team out. Those are all things where it's like, I'm focused way too much on community management right now because I'm having to deal with this person, or this person got scammed for votes, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we need to build this out so that everyone could be focused on the things that are driving them right now.
Yeah, dude. I love that. I love everything that you touched on there.
Sorry, yeah, that was a lot, dude. I was just kind of venting.
I feel exactly the same way.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure you can relate.
Yeah, 100%. So, and it's interesting to me how there it is like you use the analogy of like breathing, and it's interesting to me, like even now, like I feel like I feel like at the beginning I was like hyperventilating or something because like it seemed like it was like happening a lot, and now like I've gotten to like a consistent breath, but it always, like in my head, I always think whenever, like, am I gonna get to a point where I don't need that break, where where it isn't like breathing in and out, it's just good, and it's like right there. But maybe that's just life. Like
Do
that's
you
just
run? Do you
how it
run at
goes.
all? I was just curious.
No, I don't.
All right. Well, in running,
I,
like
I
if
walk
you're
a lot.
going, I haven't ran a marathon, but I've ran like a few miles, let's say. And
I've been actually. It's funny that you bring it up. I've actually been like telling myself that maybe I should start running again, but I haven't ran in a while. I
there's
despise running. Like I grew up. I played football all the way through college, and like
nice.
I always looked at running as like a punishment. So like
yeah.
so I think I have that like in my
I
head
feel
that
you.
like I hate
Well, see, the
running.
off season for me was track. So, but my point being is like you, especially on long distance runs, like you get into like a flow state, where you almost forget your breathing. You're at a good pace, but at the same time, like what is exercise? And a lot of that is having some of the, where you can get your heart rate up and then you bring it down. You can get that blood flowing and then you bring it down. Or like you can go do your sprints, but then you got to cool off. and that is the exercise. And it's the same thing with grinding. Like if you're out here grinding in the space, like, are you just at that, calm level this entire time? Because when are you actually going to go for a sprint and get that exercise?
Right.
But at the same time, you can't always be up there every single day because you'll burn yourself out or you'll get injured, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I relate it to like the physical exercise and breathing and things like that. Is I kind of take that into my energy into the space and
Sure.
just making sure like, am I pushing myself? Like I haven't worked out in a while. Maybe I should get a few Twitter spaces going, schedule an interview, jump into these conversations, like
Yeah.
I have the energy to be able to do that. But
Mhm.
not overcommitting to a plan or a program that's going to just kill me if I stick to it and then I have to sacrifice all these other things that I value. So
Bro, I
those are
you're pushing on a button there for me because I fucking do that all the time where I get over ambitious and I'm like, this is I have all the energy and I'm like, let's fucking go. Like I am so excited. I want to do all of this. And then like I just fucking did it. I'm still like committed to doing Twitter. I've gone through this love-hate relationship with Twitter Spaces.
oh yeah.
But like you said, the reason that you started other space is because there isn't really any spaces out there that's like talking about metaverse stuff, and like they're starting to pop up now that Otherside's getting closer, but there's still like there isn't that many spaces talking about metaverse stuff in
Oh,
general.
in the larger scope of
and
things now, yeah.
and I try to like check out other spaces all the time, and I never get motivated to come up on the stage and like talk about anything because they're usually just talking about stuff that I don't really care about. But when I find a space that's talking about metaverse stuff, I'm fucking requesting to speak before they even know I'm in the room. Um, but because I love this stuff. But that's why I was like, I'm gonna start doing a space because there needs to be more conversation around what's going on. And I was like, I'm gonna do a space every day, Monday through Friday. And like two weeks into that, I was like, I'm gonna do a space Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
but like that's all that like it really needs to be is like 1 or 2 days in my opinion. The more I think about it, but like it's I really like that analogy that you used, and Touche in the chat says the same thing. That like that
Touche.
that really made sense. Touche, this is the founder of the metaverse studio that I was speaking of earlier that I'm working with to build stuff in the sandbox.
Oh,
Really
awesome.
really dope dude. Recommend the follow if you don't follow him yet.
Yeah, I'll
But
catch it on Twitter.
yeah. But now I got distracted. Oh, the like exercise or like the sprinting versus I don't know, taking a break or resting. Like
Yeah, I mean,
like
finding that zone is kind of what I was getting into. Is like, in running, like once you're in that zone, um, that's like Kobe, with the shirt
yes.
in the mouth, like
Yeah.
and you may very well need to experiment to understand what your limitations are
Hmm.
at first. And that's something that had I not been in the gym practicing, and in this case on Twitter Spaces contributing, I wouldn't really know what is going to be sustainable. Because one thing I learned over the last like 3 years in the space, especially as it relates to like contributing as a content creator or jumping into conversations on Twitter and being present, is how can you do things consistently but do them well?
Hmm.
Because I've seen consistency play out to be like, yeah, that person's still doing it, but the quality's just not there. They're not 100%. Like, oh, I'm doing 5 Twitter spaces a week. And then if the host is slacking a little bit or they're just not on top of their game, then it actually doesn't, like, I sometimes feel like I'm wasting my time being there, you know? And that's the
Thousand.
worst feeling when I am a listener and I feel like I regret my time because I know it could have been spent better else somewhere. And they're just doing it for the consistency of it, which I respect. But it's like, what could you commit to where you can do it consistent and well? And
Right.
that's why we thought, let's do it once a week. Let's just host this conversation once a week and let's do it for at least 1 year. And let's fast forward after 1 year. What could we say we would hope to have gained from that? And I think that was the thing is like we weren't other side experts. I still don't consider myself an other side expert. We were very much learning alongside every single person. All we were doing was putting up the platform for us to talk about that and do our best to help facilitate the conversation. And so, you know, when it came to what through the consistency of knowing that we're going to do this every single week, then it becomes the whole 1% better every single time. Like, okay, this could have went well. Oh, I personally have to work on this, and that. A lot of ums. I don't know how to reset a room. I let this person talk too much. Maybe there's better topics. All of those things kind of like come into play. And it's just using the opportunity to do it consistently as like, I know I'm going to have another game to improve. And so that was kind of it. Is like we started it and through going through it, like it was the art of doing. It was just like once you do it, then you figure out like, oh shit, this could be better. And then you just every single time it just gets better and better. And by the end of the year, you're not going to be the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And hopefully there's results of the impact that you have, and those were some of the unforeseen things that I've noticed and I'm really grateful to have kind of received is just knowing how much of an impact this commitment of showing up every week has made on other people.
Yeah. And it really has made a huge impact, which is awesome to for you guys to be able to look back at that. And dude,
Thanks.
yeah, 100%. And I feel like obviously like I knew we had some things in common, but after this conversation, and I feel like we got to start wrapping things up so you can get to taking care of the kiddos. But I'm finding that we have more and more things in common. Like whenever you're talking, I'm like, am I thinking this or is he saying this? Because yeah, like it feels
Yeah.
it feels like just almost too much relatable. But I guess that's what happens when you find your people.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I agree, man.
well, dude, this has been a blast. I definitely will definitely have to have you back on the show again,
Yeah, we'll
because
definitely chop it up.
there's so much we could continue to talk about. Like we didn't even. I wanted to like. I mean, I've already heard you talk about it on the Spaces a couple of times, but your experience with the private play of Otherside
I mean,
and
we can get into it if you want for like 10 more minutes or whatever, you
all
know.
right,
We
let's end with that subject because that was one that like I'm just whenever I found out that was what you guys were doing that day, I was just like, oh man, like I was
you
so
know.
like I was so jealous. Like there was definitely like is jealous like a bad word? It wasn't a bad jealous.
No, no.
Uh, because
It's
I
honest.
was
It's
fucking
honest.
stoked for you guys. I like that's so fucking awesome. And I was like,
Yeah.
God
I'm
damn it, I
I'm
wish I
sure
was
like
there.
emotional damage. You know, it's like
Yes.
just so many emotions coming through.
So many. But
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
felt that
like
way too, man.
I was gonna say what was it like even just like starting to realize that you were gonna be a part of something? Because like how did you got like a DM from somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
they reached out to like some apes and other deed owners that were within distance of LA. Um and yeah, like got an invite to the private. It was kind of like, I forget how exactly it was positioned, but they're doing like this community Otherside test group. And they're like, you know, please don't share this with everyone, because there's only going to be a limited amount of people who'd be able to participate. But there was no NDA, and we didn't get much more information besides that. It was just like, hell yeah, I'll participate, you know, and then just kind of wait. So a couple days or a day before, we get an email saying that it's going to be at these studios, and out in LA. So like these are like large studios.
Like film set studios.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, we just get the address, and it's like, yo, check in here. It's going to be an unplugged event, so you'll be, you know, having your phone locked up, stuff like that. I'm like, oh shit, okay, what are we going to expect here? Didn't really know who else was invited, since they encouraged no one to share. And I already started hearing that invites were going out, so I was just like, man, I hope I get to go. You know? But yeah, I was fortunate to go there, show up. There's other people that I recognize. There's a bunch of people I don't recognize. We get free Bored and Hungry, which is really great IP and like food, made by, you know, a fellow Bored Ape Yacht Club community member. We chill out in this like lobby area, and starting to mingle. And all we knew was Otherside play test. And then upon check-in, we got these like cool little badges.
Dude,
you know,
I haven't seen it up close. That's pretty dope. I would hang on to that forever.
I know. I was like, oh shit, this is tight. So
especially because like that's your IP.
Yeah, there's
like,
IP, dude. So like they opened up this curtain, and there was a bunch of art boards. And by the way, both Jason and I, we did a recap of the entire experience, so we have it broken down in a little more detail. If anyone's curious, it's on OTHERspace FM's YouTube account. But yeah, they showed off the artwork for a lot of the environments. So we got to see really the conceptual art and everything that they were building out with the environments, and the amount of detail that's going into all of this. So I thought that was really dope. And then what we ended up doing is just they preface that we're about to experience a tier 5 island. And the tier 5, there's 5 tiers for other deeds. Tier 5s are the largest. Oh, thank you very much. Tier 5s are the largest size environments. And they said it was about 2.4 square kilometers. And that's what we're about to experience. And it's the center club island that we were going to do. They said they stripped away all the other extra things. So we're actually playing some bare bones kind of stuff, because they wanted to focus just on certain things. So no spatial audio, no chat, no user interface improvements or anything like that. In fact, I don't recall seeing any user interface. So a lot of it was also like a stripped down version. But as soon as we got to tour the artwork, they opened up, and they had some of these cards laid out next to each computer. And on the computer screen, on the monitor, it was, if you had a Bored Ape, it was your ape that was loaded on the screen. So I got to see my ape with the cheetah fur and the striped shirt and these really short shorts.
The shorts.
Yeah, facing the other way. And I was like, oh shit, there's my ape. Like, that's tight. Immediately sat down, started just marveling at like how crispy things looked, and immediately went to like this kind of cliff mountaintop and was just like moving the camera. And I love graphics. So like I kind of just move the camera around, look out how the dynamic lighting and all of that, how HDR is working out, and just having the sun move through my legs and arms, and seeing how the light flickers, and it was just beautiful, man.
It
I
was
was just like
beautiful. I love to
really
hear that.
excited. I was really excited because I was just like, man, if this just becomes available in the metaverse and we can run around like this, like I'm already excited. Especially if I can see like, what if I want to show up as myself, or like, however I want to dress, even as my ape, like all of those things kind of came to mind. And yeah, it was like us mobbing as like a smaller group too,
Hmm.
which I think is way more realistic than
A thousand
jumping
percent.
into the first or second trip where there's thousands of people. It's like going to a festival. Whereas this, it was like, we just literally, it was like a meetup of a lot of the
Just you,
club
you,
members.
you and the homies.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
we were able to mob and just explore different things. And
I'm
how like
so
in
excited for
Discord,
that.
in Discord, how like the community can find ways to have fun with each other without any games.
Hmm.
Like whether it be like GIF dance parties or people like doing the
Getting meme
alphabet.
offs.
Yeah, meme offs. Like there's so many things that just the community coming together, we figure out ways to like have fun and make up little mini games or whatever it might be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That was kind of like, yo, here's your Discord. Here's the
Uh-huh.
other side. What would you guys end up doing? Like what are some of the different things you would do to have fun if you were in this area or if you're in this area?
Right.
And so those were some of the things that you kind of like, it kind of got your brain going as you're exploring different areas of the other side where you're like, oh shit, I could see us hosting a space over here,
Hmm.
like, oh, downstairs of the clubhouse, this could be more of like, the degen area, where the late night talks happen, whatever it might
Right.
be.
Right.
Or hey, in the mutant caverns, this would be dope to have like people be able to post up their artwork on these like cave walls,
Hell
and
yeah, it would.
stuff like that where you're just like, oh shit, this might actually be sick if this happened or if this happened. And so to
Uh-huh.
get that feedback or have the ability to give that feedback, I think could be really, really great for, you know, the essence of co-creating some of these things together, because you can imagine during a first or second trip where they have thousands of people going, like the type of feedback that they would get
Oh my
during
god,
those
I'm
days.
I'm sure it was obnoxious. Like there's
I-
there's obviously like good stuff to sift through, but I'm sure there was so much that like was
and
not
all the
helpful at
feedback
all.
they're sifting through, like where are people sharing their feedback? They're sharing on Twitter.
Right, right, right.
So, you know, the feedback loop isn't as efficient if you
Uh-huh.
can actually get like a more core focused group. And this is what makes me excited because I hope to see more of this.
I was gonna say they gotta keep doing that, I would hope, because that's I don't know how game development companies have like function in depthly, but like I don't know, I can't imagine that a lot of them go through playtests like that with their user base. Maybe they do. I don't
Well,
know. But either
I
way,
they
it it,
do.
it makes me excited that they're doing it because that makes sense. Like that's the feedback that you want, is the feedback
Yeah.
of the people that are going to be using it. And this is a whole new like concept too. So like you want what the community wants it to be.
Yeah. And it's Web3. Like, and I say that because like I was talking with the creative director of Otherside, He goes by Santisi. And I was actually talking to him at a party afterwards. You
Mm,
know what I mean? So it was
yeah.
aside from the formal play test, and yet here are people and members of the team engaging with the community afterwards and still being able to talk it up candidly. And he was just sharing, like, because I was asking him about the feedback loop, like, what did you guys hope to get out of this? Could it have been more formal? Because it was really like I asked the clarifying question before we actually went into tests, and it was like, are we going to have like a formal like Q&A or sit down sesh afterwards? I'm like, no, if you have feedback, our lines are open. It was kind of loose like that. And
Sure.
Santisi was saying, like, yeah, that was intentional because it was the first one. And we didn't want to make it too formalized, but wanted to see, like, if we do leave it open, what types of feedback would we be able to get and things like
Right.
that. And he
Like
was
what
just
is
sharing. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just thinking like that. I actually like that angle of like what are what are these guys willing to say about it like right now in this moment? Like that's good
Yeah.
feedback to get without tweezing it out.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. Like,
I think
what are
that
you compelled to give feedback about right now?
yeah, yeah.
um and based on what they focused on, right? Like, what's great about that test is they didn't focus on us having to connect our wallets or sign in from our different computers. It's like everyone had their shit logged in. Everyone, we didn't have to worry about connecting. It was just jump in, figure out the controls on your own, and you're
And
off.
have fun.
Yeah. And like literally there wasn't any tutorial on like these are the controls, this is it. Some people, there's a keyboard, there's a game Xbox controller. I'd say the majority of people just went straight for that Xbox controller and sat back and was just like,
Yep.
shit.
That's what I
But
always find myself doing too.
yeah, what I was going to mention about Santisi was he shared some experience about him working on, with EA before. And I thought it was really, really insightful in the development, um, of certain games. There are development stages where you solicit community feedback. Like, these are the people in the community. Let's get feedback, and it could happen at different stages in development. Um, so in gaming, like, I know that exists, right? But how do you do that with Otherside and co-create, you know, this this whole concept of like building for and by the community? And I think that is something that I hope to see being worked on. And this was an example of that. Is
Totally.
like, you know, figure out what are the like at each development stage of the other side, figure out how we can get community feedback, um, where you don't have to put in lots of money and high effort into collecting feedback from, a giant group of people, but you can have like some focused areas and yet involve different areas of the community. And I think this is just the first. So I'm hoping to see more of it, but I do think, being able to develop out in the open is something that we can hope to see more of.
Yeah. I think I mean, I hope to see more of it for sure. And
Yeah, I hope
I
too, man. I
I
hope
I
too. I don't
I th
know.
I mean, it seems like if they've already done what they just did with you guys, that's the direction that they're definitely leaning towards.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited for the future. I've always been super excited about the other side. Like like don't get me wrong, Sam fam. Like I like the sandbox. I enjoy the sandbox, but I I think that the other side is going to be what I enjoy as a gamer. And that is, and you touched on it, and like wandering around and exploring and seeing the visually appealing stuff, and just like taking in the beautifulness of whatever the world, because that's what you don't get to do in real life. Like you get to go experience outdoors here, but you don't get to go and experience another planet, or
Yeah,
even Japan, or like
it's a good
a
point.
lot of us can't travel like that.
Dude,
And
Hong Kong, like we saw the skyline of Hong Kong, and when Ape Fest is this event that's going to be happening like in November. But it's in Hong Kong, and they mentioned that there's going to be a physical experience of Ape Fest, but also a digital experience.
right,
And so to see the skyline of Hong Kong in the Otherside test demo, I was
dude,
like, oh shit.
there,
They may very well be doing what you were talking about, which is however they deck out a certain venue, which they'll have multiple experiences throughout the city. But I can imagine if they put in effort to deck it out in real life,
mhm,
that they can actually showcase this and offer a virtual experience as well, and have
totally,
them model it, you know,
to
to try and
to a T.
replicate it.
They could almost get
I
it
would
to a
hope
T,
so.
especially using Unreal, like yeah, it. And that's
So
what,
it'd be
whenever
cool.
I heard that they're gonna have that metaverse experience, I was just like, are they gonna reveal the other side, like in like a beta stage,
Yeah.
or is this when they're gonna reveal, like, obviously the other side, but also the avatars? Because it sounds like they're, I don't know how far away they were. It did sound like they were close. Like that would be an epic
Biggie said that
way to release it.
they're close to the 10,000. And so when he said 10,000, it's like, well, there's 10,000 bored apes. There's
Right.
20,000 mutants. And then so I would imagine like mutants are probably going to take a little bit longer.
They're pretty
Uh
complicated.
you know what? Like if you've ever had anyone do 3D work on a mutant, shout out to Rita, but there's a
Shout out
lot of
Rita.
yeah, there's a like those take a lot longer, and you're figuring out the full body representation. That
Mhm.
was the other thing is like some of these PFPs, maybe you see the top part, and you see up to here. But did you know it had this belt? Did you know
Right.
that on the back of that vest it had BAYC with like a cool little image on it? It's like these are some of the things you get to see, like the Yuga team kind of expand the PFP into a full character. And I
Yeah.
think for mutants, like we're gonna see that. They
Which
have
is
to
gonna
work on it.
be, yeah, and that's gonna be even crazier to see what the
And then
mutants
extend
are
that to
like.
other projects, right?
Yeah.
Like you start to think like, there's so many other PFP collections, like independent ones, as well as like ones that are very popular. But if you can have that community member show up in the other side, like how is your community going to show up? I think as a project owner, if I was the owner or a founder of a project, that would definitely be something I would be looking into, is to just understand, okay, at least pay attention to the tools that are going to be available so that we can import avatars. But you got Forgotten Runes. They just released
Mhm.
their 3D avatars, and those are going to be ready. You know what
Right.
I mean? So, and their PFPs are, you know, 2D. So to see 3D ready assets where, hey, this project is going to enable you to show up in metaverse experiences as
Yeah.
yourself. So
They,
I
as soon as, well,
sorry, go for it, dude.
I was just gonna say, as soon as I saw them release those 3D things, I don't, I'm not quite in the position to just buy whatever I want, but
Yeah.
it shot up to the top of my list. I was like, okay, like
Dang.
I like what
Where are
Forgotten
they
Runes are
at right
doing.
now? Like point 0.9 or something like that? Because that's the
I
last time I checked.
Yeah, I don't know where they're at, but I wish I would have got one before, because they, that's like one of those that Like that's what gets my attention. It's like, oh, this team is actually thinking about interoperability and being able to use these things in the metaverse. I want that. So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you know what? Tooling is going to help solve that too. Like, not only
right.
the effort that a project would have to invest in, because if you're taking a collection, let's say I have a collection, like I know you're making a collection, so you can relate. So it's like if I have a collection of, let's just say 10,000 PFPs, um, I now have to figure out how to make all 10,000 avatars. Like, that's tough. And so
Hmm.
I think the tooling that's coming out from in the industry, uh, these creative tools could really help with that workflow.
Yeah.
There are things like with AI right now where you can have like a 2D image, input text or a 2D image, and have it spit out a 3D model based off of that. And hell, if that could like get people started, is their template for
Yeah,
an
exactly.
avatar they can show up as just from a 2D image, like how cool would that be, right?
So
Like
cool.
there's a lot of things like that, or hey, I have this digital wearable, but it's outfitted for a character that's technically 3 feet tall in this world. Well, using AI, it could potentially help form that to a character that's 6 feet tall. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen with the technology and the tooling just becoming more innovative without having to do so much manual work, because the more manual work you have, the more time the studios, all of that stuff. But I think we'll see that gradually over time, but
Yeah,
studios will just be able to hone in on their workflow as these tools become more available. If you're spending
totally.
all your time building out like the individual buildings in New York, and then you see something
Right.
come along that's going to like 100x your workflow on building out the environment, you're like, okay, well, now I can focus more energy on doing some of these other things that there aren't great tools for.
Yeah,
So I'm excited for like where we're heading as creators and builders.
definitely. I think like the it's crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of really exciting things coming to fruition that are in that tooling world that are really gonna amplify the way that things get built, which I think is only going to improve everything. Because then, like you said, it allows the people that are doing the building to focus on their using their creativity and the things that AI isn't very good at. That's where
Yeah.
the human comes in to plug and play kind of thing. So hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we still need to let you go. I feel like we're getting
Well,
closer to
thank you,
like
man. I
two
appreciate
hours
this
now.
conversation, dude. This
Yeah,
was
yeah,
this is awesome.
dude. It's always a good time. I especially enjoy chatting with people like yourself that are just obsessed as I am with the metaverse, and we can just chat and vent and who knows what comes up. But it's always interesting. So like I said, we'll definitely have to have you back on again. And I've also been
Thank
tooling around in my head of doing like a more of like a group style of some of the dope people that I've met, and just maybe having everyone grab a drink or smoke some weed or whatever you want to do, whatever your choice of poison is, and
you. Yeah,
then
man.
and vibe for maybe like a, I don't know, maybe it'll be an underground episode or something. But anyways, you would definitely come to mind as somebody that we should definitely have on that panel
Let's
of
do it. I'm
people.
down.
So I
I'm
think that would
down.
be fun. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And I want to give you one last time to have the stage to just let people know where they can find you, other Space FM, all that fun stuff, and then we will say goodbye.
Awesome, man. First of all, thank you, man. This was awesome. It's been a long time coming. You've always been someone I that's definitely on the map when it comes to being a resource and someone who's stayed tapped into all things metaverse. So I definitely like appreciate you and thank you for this time that we had, and also the audience in the chat. Like, just have that up on the side. I'm not signed in, so I can't really engage. But seeing all the comments, seeing the little things that have been said throughout the episode, it's really dope to be surrounded by you all. Um, yeah, as far as doing things like having a drink, being able to chop it up, we both Jason, the ape, and I, we're honing in on our content, and we have OTHERspace FM, which is our live Twitter space that we do every week at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So we have one coming up tomorrow. If anyone wants to join in, participate. We're mostly focused on the Yugaverse with a lot of that. But I think still really fun conversations, and there's so much happening there that I think a lot of people in the community are a little overwhelmed. So we're going to do our best to try and break some of that stuff down so that at least you have an understanding of what's happening in the landscape of things, as we believe like there's a lot of innovation that's happening. So check that out on Thursdays. This Saturday we'll be releasing our second episode of our podcast. We call that Deck Side, as if you're on the deck side having a chat with someone on the yacht in the swamp. So we got an episode with Captain Trippy, who's part of the ApeCoin Special Council. And we have a really great episode that's going to be premiering on Saturday. Be on the lookout for that. And OTHERspace PM. That's kind of like our, loose late night hang, decompress the previous week and kind of talk about what we're looking forward to this week. So that happens on Mondays. All that being said, the OTHERspace Discord is where we keep the conversation going. And so everyone is welcome to join there. OTHERspace.fm is where you can find all of that. And thank you, Crafter, and to the entire community for pulling up and taking the time to listen and engage. And look forward to just continue to be on this journey with you all.
Heck yeah, dude. So yeah, if you're catching the replay, I'll have all those links in the description. But if you're not and you're here live with us, I wasn't quick enough to pull them all up. But just go and get into their Discord, or what did you say, OTHERspace.fm?
Yeah, there's a link to the Discord on the very bottom of that page.
Yeah, and you'll be able to find all the stuff from there. So highly recommend getting in there. I'm in there. I love there's so much good information. So if you're at all interested or curious about the Yugaverse, that's the place to start your journey for sure.
Or just create connections with, like, there's some strong communities in Web3, right? Like, and that's one thing I like. You mentioned a little bit earlier about like communities and Bored Apes having like almost like a baked in audience. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the culture is like, apes supporting each other. And I think that's prevalent in many communities. It's not exclusive to Bored Apes, but it's definitely something that, it's like ape follow ape, apes together strong, all these different things made by apes. If you got a brand and you're doing something, you put an ape on it, guess what? There's going to be a bunch of other people that are going to jump in, and support. And I think that's one of the benefits of tapping into like the community aspect of things. But I think what's happening with the Otherside is it's extending far beyond just like this exclusive club. Like now, apes are connecting with people who are playing heavy metal, are connecting with people who are playing Legends of the Mara, which are supported with other projects. So it's like there's this kind of cross community thing that's really happening within OTHERspace. And that's one of the most beautiful parts about it that gets me excited. It's like I get to share what I've taken away and being a member of the Yacht Club, but actually sharing it with the extended community to showcase what this is really all about.
Mm-hmm. Preach.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And that's just to put a bow on everything. Like that's I feel like that's what heavy metal kind of revitalized in me, because it was it's finally a price point that I could afford to throw at something where I was like, okay, I'm finally like gonna do something with the Yugaverse, and then as soon as that happened, then I was like, okay, now I need to know about every other fucking thing that's going on in here, because they
Yeah,
all
that's
sound
how they
awesome.
get you. That's
Yeah,
how they get you.
hey, it's perfect. They got it down. But hell yeah, I hear the kiddos getting ready for bed.
That's right.
So let's let you get on your way. I'm going to um, tell people how to get their experience points and stuff here real quick. But if you
Please.
have to go, you can totally go. But I think I dropped it earlier, but I'm gonna drop it again. There's a form right now that I'm going to drop for you guys. Go fill that out, and you will get your experience points for the episode. Thanks for tuning in live. The password is going to be Nana, Nana. So just put that in there so that I know that you were here live, and
Nice.
we'll get you those experience points, and then eventually down the road here, pretty soon, you guys are going to be able to start redeeming those experience points for different wearable assets that you
Let's
guys will be
go.
able to use in the metaverse. So I'm super
Let's
jacked
fucking
about
go.
that. So hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, this has been a blast. We keep saying goodbye and then keep talking, but we're gonna actually say goodbye, and I look forward to having you on the next show, because I know it'll be a vibe just like this one. So thanks again for coming out, and we will catch everybody else on the next episode.
Awesome.
Peace.
Peace. Thank you.